Allison LaForgia, and today I am with a guest who needs no introduction, Jason Mitchel, who is not only the leader of the Jason Mitchel Group, but he's also the founder. And today we are going to dig into some of the things that make the Jason Mitchel Group so stand out in an industry where there's lots of competition and market uncertainty. Jason, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
So we are now at the end of the year and you're wrapping up a standout year. Record closings, high transaction volume, with another impressive year of year-over-year growth. Looking back, what do you think were 3 decisions or shifts that you made that were important in continuing to drive this type of catalytic growth that you've seen at the Jason Mitchel Group?
Well, I appreciate that. And we don't think about it in terms of, we have goals. I have goals that I want to achieve, but it's just about getting better every day. And I think you can look at the transaction count, you can look at volume. What I actually think we achieved over this past year that no one can see is the efficiency. And so operationally, we've been able to really trim up and really get more efficient through adding better cases of technology within the back offices that we have, and more efficient processes through implementing strategies where departments are talking to one another more and work is getting done not only more effectively and efficiently, but we didn't need any more bodies to do it. So we'll be up probably 18 to 20% this year when the year wraps up. I'm not quite sure. I think we should hit 12,000 plus closings in that like 5.6, 5.7 range of $1 billion in volume. And we actually cut staff in parts of our departments because we got better operationally. And so where you would think that you would need to add probably 2 to 3 bodies in processing, a body or so in accounting, onboarding, recruiting, we didn't. In fact, there's several departments where we were able to lose some count. And it's just simply because we really focused this year. I mean, and you always pay attention to it, but it was a high level of focus on how do we get more efficient internally to make the machine move faster, but not skip a beat. Because the first thing you think about is, okay, as I grow, I gotta add bodies, and that's not always the case if your internal processes aren't where they could potentially be. We always look at overhead and adding resources from a human perspective. We're now, oh, we got this AI here and doing this, but that's like the vogue word is, well, we use AI to do this and we use AI to do that. AI can only do so much, right? AI didn't build the efficiencies on the operational side of what we do. We use AI for more prospecting things and whatnot, but a bot isn't going to go and do some of the things that we need to do in order to effectively pay out faster, pay quicker, close deals quicker. That's internal technology that I think there's some ways that you can utilize AI for that. But really what it was is sitting down and paying very close attention and opening up the hood and saying, is there a better way? Is there a better way to do this? Find the better way. And so it's not a me thing. We have good VPs in our department that understand, don't come to work and just work. If you're a vice president of a department, come to work and think about how every day you can get your department better. Be proactive in your approach to work, not reactive. Reactiveness comes from coordinators and directors that are given tasks on a daily basis. Your VP should be thinking proactively in terms of how do I get my department better?
So what I think is stand out to me there is that you've continued to work in your business while you work on your business. How do you see that continual improvement being a benefit to the agents and team leaders that are continuing to produce under you? Have they leaned into seeing better turn times, better completion rates, faster and more efficient processes? Talk to me a little bit about their experience with this optimization operationally?
Yeah, I think for, you have ops and sales. And so externally, when you talk about sales, our org chart is we have two national VPs, then we have regionals, and then we have our corporate leaders, and then team leader, traditional team leaders and corporate leaders. And that's in every state that we operate in. So for that, on the external approach, I think it's better communication and more clear, more clarity on what our expectations are of our leaders. Also, when it comes to being efficient in technology, giving them more visibility on their production, giving them visibility on reporting. It's not perfect, but we're getting better. And as long as our sales org can see this is much better than it was 6 months ago, we have some stuff to do, but they can see the changes that were, like, as an example, this year, which was a big task, we launched our mobile app for our agents. And, we acquired a company called Home Advantage several years ago. And we've been working very diligently on utilizing that technology of distribution, updating, reporting back to partnerships in real time, and building this to where we have these integrations now to where in real time, as someone updates, and LO is getting an update, the account manager is getting an update, we're getting the update at corporate, and it happens within seconds. Sending push notifications that your updates are now due. Our job is to service our partners. And the better that our agents are equipped to have tools and resources to keep them in the know of what is going on with the consumer, whether they're out showing a house, whether we just put them in escrow, whether you need to call them because you're getting shopped on the loan. Like, these communication standards that we're setting forth all start in the field. It starts in Southgate, Michigan, locally. It starts in Phoenix, Arizona, locally, with that agent who just left the client saying, here's the update, and instantly you can get that communication. So building those tools, and so we released that this year, and it's been a huge success. It's helped our updating times. We have a lot of partners, so our agents have to go into these portals and do these updates, and it used to be very monotonous. And it's still not perfect, but it is light years better, because instead of having to spend 20 to 30 minutes a week updating your prospects, it takes 2 minutes, because you can go in the app and bang, 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 update, update, update. And so as we're building the tools internally to be more efficient with ops, we've built a lot of tools and released technologies externally to our agents in the field, which helps everybody. Our mission control department, which really is the air traffic controllers for our referral volumes, making sure that the girls there in that department know exactly what's going on in the field in case they need to be paused, in case we need to reassign a referral. And what ends up happening is your partners see that you're getting more efficient. They see that you're updating when you're supposed to. They see that you're communicating when you're supposed to. They see that conversion metrics have gone up. So all these things that you're trying to build to become more effective actually have a domino effect throughout the entire organization, and most importantly, to our partnerships.
You just touched on something that I think is such a clear distinction in your business model, and that is you are the best in the business with referrals. How do you continue to keep quality partnerships and conversion rates high?
Well, you got to perform. And, I got a call from a guy I've known a long time, that he's a former Zillow executive, and we stayed very good friends. And he called me yesterday, and he's like, hey, I have a relationship I want to open up to you. And I get these calls more often now. And it's such a good feeling to know that people that speak of your organization say the words best in class. And you don't get to be best in class when it comes to managing partnerships and relationships if you don't have the tools and resources, but most importantly, the agents in the field to service the consumer. And I just push myself, and I push our team to want to get better all the time. But I believe the reason that JMG stands out above anyone else when it comes to being best in class is, one, our scale. We now have 1,300 agents. And so when you have that scale of agents who are all bought into not just the culture, but when you join JMG, there are non-negotiables. we expect these things of you. And if these are things that you're not okay with, then you just simply can't work here, and that's fine. But if you're going to be a part of this and we're going to help you grow and we're going to help you close more deals than you ever have, these are our expectations from the very beginning. And we breathe that in every market that we have. This is JMG. JMG is about servicing other people's clients. And you have to do that on both sides, from the client side and the partnership side. You better be nice, you better communicate, and you better show our partnerships as we open them up to you, if you're newer, that you are somebody that can be trusted. Because I have spent so many years building this trust that it's more important than anything. And so when you have the ability to be honest and to look people in the eye and say, I can perform, meaning new partnerships. It's easier now to get new partners because you have so many that trust you and that you work with, that people automatically go into the relationship with trust. Whereas before, there's a lot of earn there because the resume wasn't quite what it is today. And so we've had to build that trust and integrity to the partnerships that we have. And then most importantly, you have to perform. We manage performance. If you're not performing, you will be let go. And leaders talk about tough decisions and having tough conversations. You actually have to enforce them, because the one things that tough conversations lead to is not only cutting the fat. What it leads to is people being able to see that they're not joking. And I don't want that to be me. That's tough leadership, but that's good leadership. Good leadership is making tough decisions for the best interests of the greater good. And so when you lead by that, and you honestly go out there with leadership to say, we need you to perform, and we're going to track and monitor that, it raises everyone's standard of excellence. And that's just kind of how we're ingrained. I came from a culture, I've been in real estate my whole career. I started in the corporate side at Pulte. And at Pulte, it was, you're being measured. There's a leaderboard. Who's the best? And I grew up with that mentality of, I want to be the best, but I want my agents to know that I don't expect anything more of you that I don't expect from myself. I expect myself to be the best. I expect myself every single day to work as hard as I can to do what I need to do to bring more opportunity. And that's the culture we've built here. And that's what the operational side of what we do too is. I told our executive administrator, Erica, yesterday, she said, people love working here. And I was like, don't butter me up. And she wouldn't, because she's a straight shooter. In fact, we're both from Detroit. Like she's tough, and she'll shoot you straight. But what she told me was, no, people like the fact that they know they have the freedom to make decisions as long as it's in the greater interest of everybody around them. And I'm like, damn, like that feels good, because I don't lead that culture in operations. I try to lead by people being able to see my effort, see that I care, see that I hold people accountable. Like a good coach isn't a coach that just lets you do whatever you want to do and you like them, therefore you think they're a good coach. You look back on your good coaches, and the best coach might be tough, but what happens is when you look back and you say, I got better. I got better because they made me better. They made me be somebody I didn't think I could be. And I think we have that in terms of our culture at JMG. We want you to thrive, but we want accountability in showing you that you can do things even from a leadership perspective. You have to get there, right? Like sometimes you got to break the mold and you got to get people to make tough decisions. But as they start to improve and get better, that's when I look around. You walk around now and it's like every single department has a leader that is better at what they do than what I would be. And that's when you start to feel really good. I could not lead our marketing department better than our current leader in marketing. I could not lead recruiting better than our current leader in recruiting. I could not lead mission control better than my leader in mission control. And that's a good feeling.
What I think is so standout is how you've explained not just expectations, or not even the goal of excellence, but the continual work towards striving towards excellence and maintaining excellence. And it's interesting that you're continuing to use that as your North Star, because the market has remained challenging. And yet JMG has continued to not only thrive, but grow. How have you
Yeah.
maintained a growth mindset despite that market uncertainty?
Even a flat market or a slightly declining market, there's still opportunity to grow. And the opportunity to grow is more on the new market centers, one, so adding more coverage of agents to receive opportunities from our partners. So you have to maintain that level of trust with partnerships, and you have to perform. So even when things might be down, you're still best in class in those markets to get more opportunity from partnerships. So that's the current partners, expanding markets and earning their trust in those new markets. And then there's biz deving, which is bringing on more partnerships. What we found is that as things have gotten more challenging, partnerships start to look at, are there better alternatives out there, or should we seek new partnerships? And that's where we kind of fit in, where, we were working with so-and-so, but we feel like they might be able to do a better job, or that we should see if there is somebody else out there that can compete. And so we want to measure that. And so it's like in real estate, if you have a lender and they do a good job, but they don't have all the products, you need other products. So you need other lenders to help and support you. It's like you always need to have 2 or 3 just in case. And I think in almost every phase of business. And so when we come into the fold as receiving an opportunity, we want to show new partnerships what we can do to enhance their value proposition and help make them more successful. And most of that comes through conversion, right? And so when we get a crack at it, I think people and partners see that, hey, these guys are really good at what they do here, because this is what we do. We service. We're a servicing organization that happens to sell real estate. That's what we do. And I think we do it really well. But I have to push ourselves to get better and better. So you grow and thrive even in flat markets through new marketplaces and adding new partnerships, but also enhancing the relationship value of the partners that you have by getting better. Like I said, those applications that we've rolled out this year, we've gotten better with our current relationships. And so they have allowed us to go into more markets because we've beat the competition. We're typically we have a lot of coverage, a lot of markets, but in those markets, we have competition that we're trying to be best in class for the partner because they have multiple partnerships. But we want to be best in class in every market that we're in. And if we are, we'll get more opportunity. We've had several large national partners this year that have turned off other partners and turned us on to where they're like, look, you've just proven that you guys really have your stuff together. Because it's not just like conversion's critically important, and that is number one. Mm-hmm. But it's also being easy to manage. JMG's such an easy account because in one phone call, we can change 1,300 agents at a dime. And that's why it's nice to have everybody under the brokerage, because of that ability to be nimble, flexible, get messaging out, and then have accountability to that instantly. Whereas if you don't have that and you have agents that are all over the place in different brands, and we work with a lot of networks, by the way, and they would admittedly say challenges are communication and messaging, because not everyone's under the same CRM. Not everyone's under the same SOPs. We have to deal with different leaders in these different organizations to get messaging to these agents. It's harder. And that's just a fair statement. It's just harder. We're so easy to be that account because in one phone call, everything can get done. So the scale of JMG with having a universal approach to everyone on the same systems that are utilizing the same partnerships on how to update, how to do all these things, because it's all centralized. It doesn't matter if you're in Miami, or if you're in New York City, or if you're in Tacoma, Washington, or if you're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Doesn't matter where you're at if you're at JMG. It's always the same.
Yeah, the implementation and rollout being the same is reliable. It makes it consistent, and you can continue to deliver on that excellent experience, which is a type of reliability that you don't see too much.
It's fun to see what it's become versus what it was. Um, yeah, I look. It was a gamble for me. And before we went on air, you were mentioning people don't see that, and what we were talking about was when I see team leaders and broker owners, and we're talking about things. Sometimes you get the feeling that, and sometimes they even say it, where it's like, yeah, but I'm not in your position. And my rebuttal to them all the time is, yeah, but I wasn't. I built this and bootstrapped this thing organically from day one. This is all effort. And what you see now isn't what it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and certainly not 7 years ago, right? Like, this is brick by brick. It's building an organization. And so when you look at, yeah, but that seems impossible. Nothing's impossible. You can do anything you want if you really set your mind to it. But the risk that I took was I was in the field and I was doing really well. I was selling $150 million in real estate a year. And so my risk was leaving the field to build this company. And you look back and people would say, well, it worked out. Yeah. But if it didn't, all of a sudden, my entire book of business that I've worked for 20 years, if I've been absent for 2-3 years, they stop calling because you're not servicing anymore. Right. And so that risk of leaving the field to really focus on building this company was a real risk. But I believed in the model so much that we are getting to and this is years ago, but we're getting to a place that the real estate community needs to be servicing organizations that have the consumer from the very beginning. So whether that's in search, or whether that's in lending, or whether that's in relo, consumers are finding ways to speak to these segments of business before they're coming to the real estate professional. And it didn't used to be the case. It used to be the case, like when I got started in 2002, the real estate agent connected all the dots. You were first. You recommended a lender. They had to use your MLS listings, right? And a lot of that stuff was still on paper. And so that's all changed. And what I saw was, I want to partner with people that have the channel of business. Not only how do I do that, but how do I do it better than anybody else? And then how do I recruit around that to get great agents to buy into, I'm going to help you grow your business through the relationships that I have. And then it's, how do you scale that? And so it's been a long road. This isn't something that's just happened overnight. In fact, being a great partner of ours, HousingWire, and doing a lot of the reporting that you guys do in terms of teams and numbers, you can see year over year over year over year over year. It's just consistent, focused growth year over year over year. 15%, 18%, 15, 22. And that's just effort. That's effort of believing in the model and building a company, but there's risk with that, people don't look at, when you're an entrepreneur and you're making tough decisions, you really got to believe and be convinced that you got something if you're going to dedicate your life to it. And we believed in our model that much.
Jason, looking to the future, what's the boldest goal you're aiming for JMG?
The boldest goal, well, it's not going to happen next year. It's going to continue to snowball. But the boldest goal is, I want to have servicing in every major metro market and every mid-level MSA market in the country. I want to be able to provide our partners with the best agent experience that they can ask for their customers, and continue to raise the standard of who's best in class to service. And that means that we need great agents all across this country that understand who we are, what we do, and that it's about others rather than about ourselves, that we need to be best in class in servicing consumers. And so it's expanding the coverage and working with every major partnership out there that we can help support their business and drive the outcomes that they're looking for on a national level. And so it's just, I don't look at anything except we're just going to get better and we're going to grow. And it's going to continue to be brick by brick until we look back and say, we have 85% of the country covered to where we can service you as an organization.
Jason, I look forward to watching you achieve your goals.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's always great to have the pleasure to talk to you.